Good morning. We're going to start in just a minute here once we get settled and get everybody in here. On behalf of Cover Crop Strategies and Copperhead Ag, thanks for being here this morning. We've got an exciting presentation for you. Before we get started, just want to introduce our speakers. We have Vice President of Business Operations at Copperhead Ag, Chris Werner, as well as Inside Sales Manager at Copperhead Ag, Brad Kramer today. So they're going to be walking you through how Copperhead Ag's closing wheels ensure better seed to soil contact, resulting in stronger, more uniform emergence, even in high residue conditions. You'll also hear about their RK planter repair kits and the benefits of Sabertooth Row Cleaners and much, much more. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Brad and Chris.
Thanks. So I guess before we get started here, just going to give everybody a little background on Copperhead Ag, who we are, a little bit about our story, how we got to where we are today. We're located in Humboldt, South Dakota, which is southeast South Dakota, just outside of Sioux Falls. Some of you may know that city. Started back in 2008. There were two local farmers from southeast South Dakota that approached a local engineer about possibly partnering to come up with some products to help on their farm. The farmers were looking for a closing wheel that they could use in tilled ground, no-till. They were going to do some variations of things, wanted a wheel that kind of worked across the board there. And everything on the market back in 2008 was mainly tailored around no-till operations. The conversations kind of led to the idea of creating a lighter wheel that would be more versatile for those conditions. And they also wanted to utilize existing parts of the closing wheels that they already had to make the product, economical for farmers, more efficient. And they came up with the idea of the Furrow Cruiser Spike closing wheel. And we'll talk about that later, but that was the first product that really launched Copperhead into the market and into the ag world back in 2008. As we move on, in 2016, Copperhead built a relationship with Phil Kester. Phil is from Moline, Illinois. I just met him at some farm shows in Illinois. Saw that he was the owner of RK Products. They were wear repair kits, and we became a distributor for him back in 2016. Distributed those to our dealership network for about a year. And those kits, they're economical, they're easy for the farmer to install. They were a permanent fix to vital parts on the planter that wear out. And after just distributing for about a year, Phil and Copperhead Ag agreed to the sale of RK products into the Copperhead Ag family. Then in 2018, we were offering planter parts. So when you're not selling planter parts, there's some downtime throughout the year. Copperhead kind of looked into what can we offer in the harvest world? How can we get into the harvest products? And we had some conversations and kind of explored some options out there. And kind of settled on concaves would be the way we would get into the market. We licensed the patent for the original RPR concaves from Don Estes, and then we rebranded those to what we know today as the Copperhead concaves. And then having, the middle of the planter covered with RK products, the back of the planter covered with spike closing wheels, we were looking at how do we get involved with the front of the planter. So in 2023, Copperhead Ag acquired Sunco Farm Equipment. They were a company out of North Platte, Nebraska. The product line includes residue manager row cleaners, screw adjust row cleaners, pin adjust row cleaners, and floating row cleaners. Also included the Nutrimate 3 fertilizer applicator and the double Nutrimate. And we also picked up a planter and cultivator stabilizer. So Copperhead Ag right now, we're continuing to look at different ways that we can expand our offerings to help farmers through innovation, through partnerships, and through acquisitions. So like what was mentioned earlier, this webinar, we're going to focus a little bit on our closing wheel options, how they provide great seed to soil contact, leading to more early and even emergence, how our RK kits are essential to keeping your existing planter running at maximum performance. And we'll touch a little bit on the row cleaners and the fertilizer applicator. So, Chris, do you want to roll that first video, please? All right, so let's talk a little bit about the spike closing wheels that Copperhead Ag offers. Like we talked about earlier, the Furrow Cruiser was our first product invented, and that wheel was to work across the board, whether you're no-tilling, strip-tilling, conventional tilling, planting into cover crops, just a real versatile wheel. It's made of UHMW poly, which is lightweight and allows that variability, because you're able to adjust your down pressure based on your conditions that you're in. You know, if we need to be a little more aggressive, we're going to add down pressure. If we get into light, fluffy ground or conventional till, we can back off. But having a lighter wheel allows that flexibility for you. UHMW poly is very durable. It's practically unbreakable. As a matter of fact, we guarantee that if you break one of the Furrow Cruisers, we'll replace it for free. It just doesn't happen. We've even had a dealer in Illinois that kind of challenged us and put one of the Furrow Cruisers in a vise and tried to break it and couldn't do it. So that UHMW poly is the real deal. It's also nice because it sheds mud. So you want a closing wheel to run clean for you, and that poly does that. All of our spiked wheels across the board have blunt spikes. So what I mean there, it's not a sharp spike, and that deters spearing of like corn stalks and wrapping of stubble, especially in cover crops. If you've got a sharper spike, you risk really wrapping that wheel up in there. And we've also, you notice each spiked wheel, the spikes are straight. So we believe you have a straight spike, it goes into the ground, crumbles that sidewall like we're supposed to, and comes out without disrupting the seed. Once you start bending or curving or twisting your spikes, that's when you're going to risk moving the seed around, maybe plucking the seed out, and you'll see it on top of the ground. Just disrupting the soil too close to the seed causes issues there. We always recommend running 2 per row. So we want a spike on each side of that furrow so that we're breaking things down evenly. If we run 1 spike and say 1 smooth tire, you risk leaving compaction on one side of the row. And we really want everything broken down evenly so that we can get proper root development and get those plants to be stable. The spikes on these wheels, the goal of them obviously is to be more aggressive, to crumble that sidewall down. But our wheels, they're wide. So they're wide like the rubber tire, like the cast regular wheel. And what that does, the base of the wheel, it gives it depth control. So we're only going to go as far until we hit that base, but it's also going to firm the soil around the seed. So we don't want just a spike crumbling the dirt and leaving it loose. We want that wheel to bottom out and firm that soil around the seed, giving us that good seed to soil contact. You know, the spikes, they eliminate compaction and air pockets, which helps to get us to that earlier and more even emergence. And that gets us to that great start of getting more bushels in the bin at harvest time and more money in your pocket. All right, Chris.
Yeah, one thing to note as well is we just came out with the Cruiser 2. This one's that's spinning right now. It's a one piece, and we actually had the opportunity to change the design. But over the years, since 2008, 2009, we have not found anything better. So we kept the design as it is. We recently did a trial with the PTI farm up in North Dakota, and it was fantastic. So I think that's pretty telling about our design is that even was it 17 years later, what was first designed still works, and it works very well. And we're pretty economically priced as well.
So the two newest wheels that we kind of have out there, like Chris mentioned, the newest one is the Cruiser 2, but we also have the Cruiser Extreme. And we did things a little bit different with the Cruiser Extreme. So we had the poly wheel out on the market, and that was working great. We started to hear people were looking for maybe something a little more aggressive, a little more extreme. Precision was really pushing, hey, cast wheels and added weight is big. Planters, we were starting to get into some high-speed planting. More guys were planting into cover crops, and we needed something a little bit stronger and heavier. So we came out with the Cruiser Extreme, and that's a cast spiked wheel. We did take out 2 spikes to open it up to allow it to clean out better. But the performance is just as good as the Furrow Cruiser original wheel. Each wheel of the Extreme does weigh 21 pounds. So you're looking at 42 pounds per row. But what that does is that allows you to use the weight of the wheel to do your closing. We're not having to crank on the down pressure in those tougher spots or in high speed planting. We allow the weight of the wheel to do the closing. Because when you add too much down pressure to try to get spikes to close the wheel, you're lifting on the front, and then your seed depth can be inaccurate. And when we get to high speed planting, guys going 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 miles an hour, there's a lot of bounce in the back of that planter. So as you're planting that fast, it's hard to keep constant contact with your closing wheels with the ground to close things up evenly. And we found that this heavier wheel does just that, where it will actually keep better contact, constant contact across the field, and still close that furrow up as you're going faster. Works great in cover crops. Guys absolutely love it. It runs clean. It doesn't wrap. You've got that weight back there so you can get through the cover crop and actually close that furrow up. Really, the only time I've ever heard, and to be honest, of an issue is if a guy went out and it just rained and the cover crop was really wet. You may get some wrapping there, but otherwise, we've seen videos and pictures of cover crop as tall as the planter, over the planter, and running the Extremes through there, closing up the furrow and doing a great job. Cast hardly wears at all, so these wheels are going to last you a long time. I think, we've been selling these for probably 5 or 6 years, and I don't think we've had anyone that actually has worn them out yet. The bearings are replaceable, so you can pop them out. It's just a snap ring, so you can continue to use the wheel. And then, one thing about these wheels as well is that they're reversible. So there's no one certain direction that I need to run any of Copperhead's wheels. As I run them and as they do slowly wear down, I can flip them around. So really, I'm going to get double the life over all the competitors out there, just because I can flip these around and run them either direction. The second wheel, like Chris touched on, is that Cruiser 2. Pretty new to us, only been out now for a couple years. We've been testing it, I think, probably about 4 years now. So great results. Gets the same performance or even better than the original Cruiser. We did take 1 spike out, so we're looking at 15 spikes there just to get more firming action and help it clean out. The nice thing about the Cruiser 2 is it's a one-piece poly wheel. So we're getting rid of that middle plastic hubs and all those bolts and just going to a one-piece wheel with the open spoke in the middle. Because one complaint we have heard about, a spike closing wheel using those plastic hubs is mud does tend to build up on those plastic hubs. So we're getting rid of that, and the whole wheel is poly. And you can see it open in the middle. So just a real simple wheel, take your old wheel off, add some shim washers to get our distance, throw the Cruiser 2 on. No taking hubs apart or doing anything there. Again, a replaceable bearing held in with a snap ring. So if the bearing does eventually go out, you can replace it. It's just a regular closing wheel bearing and continue to go. So the simplicity of the Cruiser 2 is pretty big. And the price point of it is hard to beat right now on the market.
Something that's really of note as well that's cool is we get to test out all our products years before they come out. Kevin Bird farms and owns part of Copperhead, and like Brad said, we tested the Cruiser 2 for probably 4 years, the Extreme the same. Like, we get to test everything that we build on an actual farm in South Dakota. So not everybody can say that, which is really kind of cool. We got a video. You want me to play that, Brad?
Yeah, so this is just a little bit of the Cruiser Extreme running on our Case IH conversion kits. So one thing to touch on what Chris said, it's great that we get to test all these products, locally. We get to see how they work. It's not always we test something and it's amazing and we go to market with it. With specifically the 2000 Case IH planner, the conversion kit, we ran multiple brackets to get to where we're at today. And we had some that were pretty bad. We were running out in the field and they were not good. Just getting the angle of everything, getting the accuracy that we needed. But it was nice to be able to just test that locally and figure out what we needed to do to get to the actual product that's effective. As we get in here, this is RK products. So just a little background on RK products. This was started by Phil Kester. He was a retired John Deere planter engineer from Moline, Illinois. So what better person to figure out what parts on the planter wear out and how we can fix them more economically and easier for the farmer. We had met Phil at Farm Progress in Decatur and just started a relationship with him. Thought that those products would be a great fit for our toolbox. They fit in with what we were doing. We thought they were great products. Our dealers would love them. Our customers would love them. So we offered the products to our dealer network for a year, and it just absolutely blew up. Dealers were happy. Farmers were happy. Like I said, very economical kits that fix the wear parts. So Copperhead Ag acquired them the following year, and we moved production to Sioux Falls. Or to South Dakota, excuse me. And we did keep Phil's son Reed was on, and he actually welded our C-tube guards for a couple years after that. And the RK products are just great wear repair kits for almost all makes and models of planters and for John Deere drills. We've got kits even when you go back to the John Deere 7000 planter, Kinsey 2000, 3000. We've even got kits for a white 5,000 and 6,000. So these kits are all adaptable. They're a little bit different, obviously, for the different planter model. But we have kits starting from the brand new Deere planter all the way back there. Some of the kits that are included, what we kind of work on is the closing wheel frame repair kit. So fixing the closing wheel frame to keep it nice and snug. We have gauge wheel arm repair kits that repair the gauge wheel arms so you don't have that play and that slop in the gauge wheel arms. We have our own single bearing gauge wheel arms out for John Deere, and Kinsey is the newer one, and looking at other planters in the future. We have heavy duty C-tube guards that I believe are the strongest, most heavy duty on the market. And then we have gauge wheel mud scrapers. And we'll go through each category there a little bit individually. All right, so we'll start off with the gauge wheel arm repair kit. Just some points about it, like you can see, eliminates wear in the gauge wheel arm pivot, tightens the gauge wheel's arms up, eliminates plugging between the wheel and the disc, and keeps dry dirt out of the furrow. So a very common problem with planters is if you grab that gauge wheel and that gauge wheel arm and try to move it side to side, there's probably going to be some play in there. And the issue we have, like I mentioned above, that wheel's not going to be tight against the disc, so we could get plugging in there. That wheel is not scraping off that disc, keeping the mud off of it. Also, if you've got that space in between the wheel and the disc, and you got dry dirt on top, you're going to get dry dirt that gets thrown down into the furrow on top of the seed, which is going to prohibit growth and emergence there. So we really want to keep that gauge wheel arm snug so that it's only moving up and down and no right to left slop, and keep that wheel against that blade. So it's doing its job, not allowing that dry dirt in, keeping that mud off the disc. So we have these available for John Deere, Kinsey, White, and Case IH planters. Really, it eliminates the current way that the arms are attached to the planter by creating tension on washers on both sides of the arm to hold that arm in place to only move up and down and get rid of that side-to-side wobble. So one of our most popular kits is the PR 1150A. So that's for the standard original arm on a John Deere 1700 planter. And those arms, if you know, they're threaded through the middle. They're held on with a bushing that follows the threads through and into the planter. So what we do with our gauge wheel arm repair kit is we eliminate the threads, first of all. So you tap in a smooth bushing that has a split in it, tap that in, we're eliminating the threads. Then we're putting a pivot pin or a stud, screws into the planter frame, and that gets Loctited in. So that's going to be in, it's almost converting it back to the older Deere planter where you have a stud coming out. But the nice thing about that being in there is if I got to pull the arm off in the field because I mud up or something, it's easy on and off. You're not holding that wheel on your knee trying to get a bushing through there. You're sliding it on and off that pivot pin. And that pivot pin also kind of distributes the weight more evenly from that arm across the pin. And then you put some thin shim washers between the planter row unit and the arm to get your gauge wheel against the blade where you want it. The rest of the thin washers go on the outside. There's a tab washer that holds everything on, and there's a concave washer that goes on the outside. And then there's a cap with a bolt head that holds everything on. It has a large lock nut, so we tighten that to hold it on. And then what we do is we lift the arm, we tighten that lock nut to create tension amongst those washers, and it'll hold the arm actually up and out of place. But what we want is we want to slowly back it off so that that arm flows up and down as we need it, and it's set. So pretty easy to install. There's some finagling on getting your washers, how many you need here or there. But once it's set, you're good to go. And then, like I said, available for a lot of different planters there. The one I wanted to touch on as well is for the Case IH planter. So the Case IH planter already has a stud or a pivot pin in it, but on the end of it, it has a hole with a cotter key or a cotter pin in it. That's what holds that arm on. So what we do is we eliminate that pin. We put our own pin in there that has a hole in it for grease. We get rid of the cotter key and we put the cap on with the washers, the same as the Deere. The cap has a grease zerk, so we turn that into a greasable repair kit. And those just work great on the Case IH planters, anywhere from the old 800s all the way up to the 2000 series. And then we've got our single bearing gauge wheel arm, which is pretty new for us. We've got them available for the John Deere 1700s. And like I mentioned, we just have them out now for the Kinsey 3000 and 4000. Did some testing in this last spring. Great results on those Kinsey arms. I think we're ready to take it to market to full bore to get them out there. And the idea behind these gauge wheel arms is just a simple single bearing, single large bearing in there, the gauge wheel bearing with a snap ring. We believe one heavy duty bearing is the way to go here. There's a pivot pin that we install with this as well. You know, like I mentioned, to easily remove the arm if you need to, and to balance the pressure of that arm. There's a gauge wheel clip that comes installed on the arm for where the depth stop hits the arm, just so we don't get that indenture in there and mess with our seed depth. That comes installed. And we are looking at other planters, like where are we going to go next with the arm like this. It's something we're looking into right now. And really it's just a couple of washers to get your spacing where you need it, and a lock nut on the end to hold it. So very simple, but a very effective arm.
At Farm Progress, we will be formally announcing the new Kinsey gauge wheel arm, both right and left. So if you plan on attending that, come by our booth. And also put on the salesman's hat right now. A lot of guys think that these might just be for used planters, but a lot of this RK stuff, it's like when I get a new planter from the factory, why is everything so loose? The closing wheel bracket, the gauge wheel arms. So we have guys, plenty of guys, and I know nobody's buying new planters right now to speak of, really. But when we're back in that nice time, putting these RK units, RK kits on new planters, just make it that much more valuable and increase the longevity for sure.
So the most popular RK kit that we sell is for the closing wheel frame repair kit. We have these available for John Deere Kinsey white planters, and then we do put these on John Deere drills and air seeders. Really you need your closing wheel frame to not have any slop in it, so that your closing wheels are doing the job they're supposed to and run true. Like they need to be on each side of the furrow, not on top of the furrow, pushing that sidewall down. And it's even more important if you have a spiked wheel. If you've got slop in that closing wheel frame, you come around a corner or you hit a side hill, you're going to end up with a spike in the furrow, and that's going to pluck the seed out. So even more important there. Basically, we're changing out the plugs or the bolts that's holding that closing wheel frame to the row unit, and switching it over to a bearing, which makes way more sense. If we're going to move up and down, what better thing than a bearing to put in there to allow easy flow. These kits are very economically priced and simple for a farmer to put on. Very easy weld, some spray paint, and you're good to go. The most popular one is the picture there. It's the PR3142, goes on John Deere planters with worn out closing wheel frames. We're pulling that cast plug out. We're pulling that closing wheel frame off. We're welding a collar on, just touch welding, an inch on the top, inch on the bottom. And we're switching it out. We're putting a bearing inside that collar. There's some washers used to space it out so that the bearing rides in the collar. There's a new bolt, and that closing wheel frame is going to be snug. There's going to be no right to left slop. It's going to flow up and down nice on a bearing and pretty much be a permanent fix for you. Once this kit's installed, you're good to go, and you're not going to have anything wear out. All right. The last two RK products I wanted to touch on briefly here is the gauge wheel mud scrapers and our seed tube guard. The gauge wheel mud scrapers we have available for John Deere, Kinsey, and white planters, basically eliminating the mud buildup on the gauge wheels. We angle that blade at a 45-degree angle to help push the mud up and out so it doesn't drop into the furrow. They're easily assembled and adjustments are easy. The bracket goes right over the gauge wheel arm. There's a U-bolt and some set screws to hold it in place. That way, as your wheel is moving throughout the field, the blade is keeping constant contact right above the wheel, and the mud scraper is moving up and down as the arm moves throughout the field. It's not just for planting in mud either. We hear a lot of guys that are putting fertilizer up front where it may get a little tacky on that gauge wheel, and these work great there as well. Just keeping that gauge wheel clean so that our seed depth is accurate. And then the last product is our seed tube guards. These are available for John Deere, Kinsey, and white planters. Basically keeping that seed tube guard centered, lasting 5 to 6, I would even say 7 to 8 times longer than the standard OEM seed tube guard. And the reason being these are heavy duty is there's high wear plates that are hand welded on the side of these. So when you see them, they're bulky, they're heavy duty, they're very, very durable, don't break in rocks, long lasting. And the nice thing is you're not changing out C-tube guards every time you're changing blades or every couple of years changing C-tube guards. These things are worth the money. They're heavy duty. They last a long time. All right. We'll touch a little bit on the Sabertooth Row Cleaner. So this is part of the Sunco product line that we recently acquired. These are available for John Deere, Kinsey, White, Case IH, Porsche, Monosim, Massey. I believe that's it. Pretty much everything out there. We have some sort of row cleaner for. The Sabertooth Row Cleaners have a heavy duty, large single bearing and cast hub. So we really pride ourselves on our bearings lasting in these things. Heavy duty, last you a long time. You're not having to worry about changing bearings when you're out there the first year running these. They hold up in those tough planting conditions. They have a concave curved blade. And what that does is that pushes the trash out of the way and doesn't fling it or throw it into the next row. And the way I can explain that is think about if you're pushing a snow shovel through the snow and just pushing it down the driveway, it just kind of folds that snow over. So this is what these concave blades do, just kind of folds the soil out of the way and doesn't throw it into the next row there. We have a leading disc, so we go with one disc in front of the other. We usually do half a planter with right leading, the other half with left leading, just to ensure there's no pull or drag. And the reason for the leading disc is that leading disc will grab any trash right away and get it out of the way. So if I've got a corn stalk, big corn stalk I'm coming up on, and I've got blades that are right next to each other, you could have the issue of them kind of fighting over it, tugging, plugging up. Where with the leading disc, we're going to push it out of the way right away and then get that nice seed bed that we need. We've got 3 options with the Sabertooth Row Cleaners. We've got a screw adjust, which has a handle on top. We've got a pin adjust, which has a 7-hole stem and a quick adjust pin. So they're easy to change as well. And then the most popular is the floating option, which we've got a floating on parallel linkage arms, and you can run it just floating it like that. You can run it with the precision clean sweep, or we do have a downforce spring that we can add to that. And then we do have a narrow blade option that currently is just one blade. And it's not just we're taking one blade off. No, it's a different foot piece. We change the angle so that that one blade can get in there and do the 15-inch rows and get that cleaned out. All right. And the last product is the Nutrimate 3, which is our fertilizer applicator. We have the Nutrimate 3 and then the double Nutrimate 3. So the Nutrimate utilizes a notched and smooth disc. So the notched disc is a little bit bigger. It's a 13.5 inch, and the smooth blade is a 12-inch. And that larger notched blade helps keeping the rotation there, prevents slipping, plugging, keeps that wheel moving, even through sticky conditions. We have a dry and a liquid fertilizer option. So with that liquid, you've got that nylon tube, and with dry, you've got a stainless tube that goes through there. These applicators are very accurate. You've got the blade that's going to cut open right next to the seed and drop that fertilizer. We have the option of either going a 1/2 inch below the seed, a 1/2 inch above the seed, or a full inch below, just by making simple adjustments on the applicator. So with these, we can run the Nutrimate alone and just put fertilizer down, or on front of it, we can add a pin adjust row cleaner or our floating row cleaners. So we have guys running it either way. If they're running row cleaners and used to that and need to move some trash, you can add that to the front of it and do a good job. And those floaters can be run either by a spring or by that clean sweep, like I mentioned before. think that's about it. What I have, you can find us on socials. We have a Facebook page, a Twitter page, an Instagram page, YouTube channel, which we have a ton of installation videos, especially with the RK kits. That's a good place to go. We've got product descriptions and things on there. Our website is copperheadag.com, so copperheadag.com. And the next place you can find us is, like Chris mentioned, we'll be at Farm Progress in Decatur, ready to announce that new Kinsey gauge wheel arm. We'll have a large booth with all our products on display. We'll have our full team there. Chris will be there. We may have some ownership there as well. So looking forward to Decatur.
All right. Thanks, Chris and Brad. Just to reintroduce myself, everyone, McCain Vogel here. I'm one of the editors for Cover Crop Strategies. So we did have a couple of questions come in. So we'll get to the Q&A portion here. We got about 15, 20 minutes to do some questions. So if you missed my announcement at the beginning and you do have a question, the little Q&A icon at the bottom there, go ahead and type your question in there and we'll try and get that answered. So first one for you guys that we want to have answered is just kind of what sets you guys apart from the competitors. Why would somebody want to go with your product as opposed to somebody else's?
First thing I would say, and Brad can definitely get more specific than I can, but we're made in the USA. I get the question all the time, hey, what's tariffs going to do to you guys? Well, nothing. We don't outsource, so our products are going to stay the same price. Now, there could be some foundries or whoever that want to increase the price because the tariffs maybe allow that. But being made in the USA completely, we don't have to worry about tariffs. Also, our product offering is very vast. As spoken before, we have a farmer that we get to test all our products out on. And yeah, people do test their products, but to have that in-house ability, I think speaks volumes. Brad?
Yeah, definitely that. The other thing, from being internal here, our customer support, I would say I'll put up against anybody. We support our products. If there is an issue, we take care of it. If we need to do a warranty, we do a warranty. If something's not working right, we want to talk directly to the dealer or the farmer and get it figured out. We're quick with getting our products out too. We have someone dedicated straight to Copperhead, shipping products out. Dealers love that. They put in an order, we get it shipped out right away and get it to them, get it to their customer. And then the other neat thing is that we're under a dealers only right now for sales. We sell directly to dealers and that's it. We believe in our dealership network and that they provide great support to farmers and customers. So we want to support them as well. So selling to the dealers.
Yep. And actually, we had a question come in asking, where do I buy them? Direct, dealer network, both. So that answers that. Another question, we have an attendee wondering, do these products work in every different soil type?
Yeah, I would say, obviously things wear different in different soil types. If you're in sand, I would say, our poly wheels maybe wear a little bit faster. So I would direct you to cast. Rocky conditions, all our stuff is heavy duty and well made. So we stand behind that. It's going to stand up in rocky conditions. Obviously perfect dirt, everything's going to work. So yeah, we're going to work there. But yeah, we try to tailor our products around working across the board, different soil type, different tillage practices, because no farm is one type or the other. Even across one field, you might have some different soil types. And you don't find a lot of farmers that are strictly no-till or strictly tillage or strictly cover crops. It's a mix. So we try to tailor everything to be as variable, as flexible as we can.
The only product, and this is the OEM being very honest with you all, the Nutrimate. The Nutrimate may not work in certain soil types that we found out. The rest of the stuff, yeah, works pretty great all the way around. But that Nutrimate 3 is probably the one where, you'd want to talk to us or talk to your dealer and figure out if it's going to work for you.
All right. And then another question was, do the repair kits come with instructions?
Yep. So each kit has its own individual instructions. They come in the package. We also have them online on our website. And then that's a big spot on the YouTube channel. Us sales guys, farmers have all installed these kits, and you'll probably be able to find a nice short video explaining it on YouTube as well.
Awesome. All right, here's another one. Do the floating bar mount row cleaners have an adjustable depth spot? Depth stop, sorry.
Depth stop. Yep. Yeah. So there is a cam on there that you can set as well. And then, then you can control it also with either the spring or the clean sweep cylinder.
All right. And then last one that we have here, an attendee wondering, how are your closing wheels different from Yetter twisters?
Well, we're absolutely superior. One of the things, and again, Brad can talk more to this, one of the big things is they're directional. So you use one side, well, there goes another, and they're more expensive. Their completes are 250, ours are 220. Their inserts are 150, ours are 130. We don't get double the life, but close to. So theirs is a left, theirs is a right. It doesn't matter what side's ours on. As soon as you wear one side, flip it over, go. And we last quite a bit longer, and we're less expensive.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned a little bit, but we believe in the straight spike. If you look at our wheel, it's a straight spike, goes into the ground, comes out. I worry not just with the twister, but others out there. If you twist, bend, or curve a spike, you risk moving the soil, disrupting the seed. And then the space between the spikes between us and the twisters is ours is more open. So the space between the spikes is actually firming and cleans out well. Once you get the spikes closer together, you're creating more of a pinch point, which is more adapt to collecting mud or trash or things like that. So I believe ours runs a lot cleaner as well.
All right. Well, it looks like that's all the questions that we have. Any final comments, Brad or Chris?
No, just appreciate the opportunity here. Even if you're a farmer and you want to chat about this stuff, give us a call. We'll talk to you, find out what's best for your operation and what works out for you. And then we can put you in touch with a dealer, or you can go to your local dealer and get all of our products.
And as stated before, we're not perfect. We don't claim to be perfect, but we think that we have a really good product. Again, it's made in the USA, which we're very proud of. And our mission for the entire company is always, and it's our slogan, helping farmers grow. So if the farmers are going to be successful with our products, then we know the dealers will want to sell them, and you guys keep buying them. So thank you for hopping on here and for all of your support.
All right. Well, just one more reminder that if you want to go back and share any of this with, someone else on your farm, any neighbors, things of that nature, the replay will be available at covercropstrategies.com. And again, you should get an email in about a day or two letting you know that that's available and uploaded to the site. Other than that, just want to say on behalf of Copperhead Ag and Cover Crop Strategies, thanks everybody. And if you have other ideas for, webinars or digital demos you'd like to see us cover, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So thanks for being here, and hope everybody has a good Thursday and a good weekend. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.